Hello everyone, and welcome to the Oral History Series on St. Joseph's Parish in Ottawa. Today we welcome Renée Siraco and Paolo Siraco, who will be sharing their experience and perspectives about St. Joe's. Welcome, Renée and Paolo.
Thank you very much, Terry.
And today, I understand, is a very special day. Today we're celebrating Renée's birthday.
Yes.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, we traditionally start off these series questions with the typical questions of when did you start coming to St. Joe's?
We moved to Ottawa in 1971 from Toronto, and we immediately, we settled in Sandy Hill, and naturally we registered the students in St. Joe's school, and we came to St. Joseph's Parish for our spiritual needs. I guess from then we were here for about a decade before we moved on, and talk a little more about that.
So you're attracted to St. Joe's because you lived in Sandy Hill, is that correct?
It was basically a natural, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you were in the early 70s, we went through renovation in the Catholic Church, and one of the movements was the Cursillo movement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand you both made Cursillos. Can you talk to me about Cursillo?
I can, and I guess that'll take me to sort of the next stage of our spiritual life, because as we continued to come to St. Joe's, we found there was something lacking in kind of being motivated spiritually. I think we were both a little bit outgoing and looking for involvement, to be involved in the community and so on, but it wasn't present here in those days, for sure. So we tended to move a little bit away from, except for attending Mass, which became less regular, I would think. We were losing our connection with the church. And I met a friend of mine who had made this Cursillo, and he introduced me to another oblate priest, the parish priest of Madonna della Risurrezione Parish, which was sort of an up-and-coming Italian parish in those days. And I'm talking now close to 1980 and so on. And I was also, it was also suggested to me by my friend that I should probably do a Cursillo weekend, because I did speak freely about our not being too involved in the church. So I was sponsored by the parish priest and the other to go to my first, the Cursillo weekend, which was in 1983. And then the following one I sponsored Renée, which is, those who know Cursillo know that at least in those days, whereas now it's probably changed a little, but in those days the men had to make the Cursillo first and sponsor their mates, wife, as it was in this case. So Cursillo did marvelous things for us, because it really, with all of the ideals that Cursillo has, the ideal, the action, and so on, it really did that for us. It brought us back to being actively involved in the church. And as I said, I did my Cursillo in April of '83. Yours probably was in May of '83, following mine. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
I had Father Bren McGannity as spiritual. Bren McGannity was the spiritual advisor on my weekend, and very powerful stuff. For the first time, the readings, I was hearing them for the first time. It was quite uncanny, and when I followed up at St. Joe's, the same thing. My ears were opened. It was, and I have to say, and I have to thank, oblate Brendan.
Yeah. Well, and perhaps if I may just complete that picture, of the St. Joe's involvement, we lost track of where St. Joe's was going in those days. But I did have an opportunity to meet Father Fred McGee, who was the spiritual director of my weekend, at the Cursillo, and sort of found out that St. Joe's had moved on and there was a lot more going on here than there had been before. In addition to that, my involvement then, I got involved in the Italian community. As I said, the oblate priest that sponsored me was the pastor of Madonna della Risurrezione Parish, and I got involved after Cursillo, with following up with the action that Cursillo encourages to take. I got involved with the Pastoral Council, became the chair of the new church committee, because there hadn't been a church actually. They were celebrating in various gyms and so on. So we built a church up to later on in the 1980s, which is why I did not immediately come back to St. Joseph. We didn't come back because we got fairly involved with the Madonna della Risurrezione Oblate Missionary Church.
So then, would you be coming back to St. Joe's in the late 80s? Or?
Yes, yes. What happened was, we also, Father Marcel Chenier was the assistant pastor at Madonna della Risurrezione, another oblate who was named the director of the choir, the mass choir that sang for the Pope and the Pope's visit here in Ottawa. And I was asked to join that group, that choir. And of course then I met the other St. Joe's connection, which is Jane Williams, who was really the actual director. Father Chenier was the in-name director, but he, in preparing the choir, Jane was instrumental. So that's when I met them. And as I said, I've got to know a little more about St. Joe's. I also knew that the Cursillo movement was very strong with the St. Joe's community, and the fact that the basement of the church hall was actually used many times for the Cursillo weekends.
Yes. Now, when you came back to St. Joe's, I take it Jane had convinced you to join the choir.
Well, when we came back to St. Joe's, I think the first thing is where we had, we have those October or fall, ministry calls, or I forget what the name is. But of course we came and lined up, and the first thing we did is sign up for, because we had been involved in the choir at Madonna della Risurrezione as well. As a matter of fact, Renee was the choir director when we left.
They had nobody else.
I'm sure you're excellent.
Yeah, and I mined Jane for Cursillo music to transpose over to MDR as progressive theology. That's what it represented. The music from St. Joe's at the time was all Cursillo music, and I was able to import that to Madonna Church.
Yeah, my theme for the Cursillo weekend was "Here I Am, Lord."
Yes,
and I think we certainly adopted that hymn, and plus many others, translated into Italian. And
come signore. I mean, we did, and we had the Italian Bible at home, so we were able to crib Cursillo music and Italian text.
Because many of the songs, of course, are based on scripture.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So when you came to St. Joe's, you joined?
Yes, we joined the choir. I mean, we had already come to St. Joe's, and I should probably mention the fact that we had been looking for our spiritual home, and Madonna della Risurrezione was, during the time that certain pastors were there. In fact, an administrator was appointed who became a very good friend of ours, Father Paolo and Renée. It was fine until a new pastor was appointed, and it looked to us, even though we hung on for another year or so, that things were going to regress back to a little more conservative and not allowing us the participation that we were always willing to to take. So that brought us back to St. Joe's, since we actually lived in the area, because going to Madonna's Return was really a bit of a sacrifice. You know, we had to get in the car and go there. Here, we walked over. So, I mean, not to say that that was the main factor, but I think the fact that we knew things were a lot more progressive here, that we really were attracted to come back. Mm-hmm. Joined the choir, both of us, and the rest is history, I guess, as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, it mattered to us. The theology mattered to us. And the oblate themes mattered to us. So I just, you know, it spoke our language suddenly. And we said, where have we been? You know, we've been sidetracked here. We're home now. It's our spiritual well, yes.
Now, I can't sing worth a damn. So I don't know anything about being a member of a choir. But what's it like to be a member of a choir?
Well, as somebody has put it, you know, singing is praying twice or 3 times. And to me, I've always liked singing. I wasn't involved in too many things, although I was already a member, or I became a member of a male choir, and not a church necessarily, but a male choir. So it's always been in my blood, and I think Renée loves to sing just by nature. So we found it to be a very good way of practicing our faith, is to sing. It doesn't, you know, I mean, we presumably we do have an ear for singing, but I think even if we hadn't, we probably would have done it.
It's not without its leadership, and the leadership has a lot to do with it. We've been through so many choir directors, and until we got young Jamie, with his long hair at the time, we weren't really focused. He got us back on track liturgically and musically, and again, it tied into the scriptures, to our theology, to, you know, the oblate charism. It just rounds out our spiritual life beautifully. It's a good fit.
Good. Yeah. Well, just to elaborate a little more on that, the choir directors. I mean, Jane was just superb as far as I'm concerned. A great musician, really, plus the fact that she was also a theologian. It was a wonderful fit. I think we learned a lot. I learned a lot in you know, being in the choir with her. We had other choir directors after her who were also excellent in their own way. But I think it wasn't until, as Renée has said, Jamie came into the picture, that we found that it was a natural following of excellence in music here at St. Joe's.
There's a growth, major step forward. Oh yeah, yeah, and he grew with it, and we grew with him. So it's ongoing. It's so good. It is just so good for us, and it's a commitment too, because it's like its own family. It has its own, you know, rituals, and it's got its own demands too, and responsibilities, and we're good with that.
Good. Now, Renée, you are a member of the Pastoral Care Outreach and Parish Council.
Yeah.
And Paolo, you're a member of the Finance Council. What made you decide to join, Renée, the Parish Outreach, Pastoral Care Outreach?
Kathleen Allen. She has a way, you know, her hints and persuasion, really, that she needed someone for Sunday mornings. And because Paolo and I come to the liturgy on Saturday evening, I had no reason to say no. So it's been 8 years now that I've been active there every Sunday, holidays included, and that's something that the other denominations can't say. We are present for people who, when Catholic holidays are important to them, we're there on those on those holidays. That gives me enormous satisfaction. That you see tears in people's eyes because we come walking in, with the Eucharist. The Parish Pastoral Council, I think Richard Bodette is totally responsible for that. I think there was a vacancy and they needed a quorum, and I happened to walk into the little chapel here for Mass, and there we go. So I was in, and I've been in, and for the first time, I think ever, we've gone through the whole summer with meetings. Lots of them, heavy ones, especially due to this residential school issue. It's been heavy. It's been heavy on our hearts. It's been heavy on our agenda, and it's heavy in our prayers. So,
And do you meet by Zoom or do you meet in person?
so far, it's been all Zoom. Yeah, so far. We're looking forward for the day. When?
Yeah, when the pandemic ends.
Yes.
And Paolo, you're on the Finance Council.
Yes, it wasn't necessarily a choice I made, but I was asked by Father Jim to join, and I was very honored to be asked. And I have served on it now 3 or 4 years ago. But going back to the music, one of the things, and one of the reasons why we come to the Saturday Mass, for instance, is that when you were asking me about my love for music, it's so much so that on Sunday I want to sing in Italian, so I go to St. Anthony's to join that choir to sing at the Mass there.
Oh, really?
Not that I have split loyalties, because I consider myself a parishioner here first and foremost. However, I joined that choir, so it then allowed us to come to the Saturday 5 o'clock Mass and sing at the 5 o'clock Mass in the choir here, the small choir here. So that's how things happened.
It seemed to fit our agenda. It may change in the future, although we're not sure, because of the situation here. With Jamie might decide to streamline the 5 o'clock Mass, in which case I would have to do communions earlier after breakfast at the cemetery,
or later,
and come back for the 11:30 Mass to sing to sing prayer.
Yeah.
Really, it's the way we pray.
Now, you are famous for bringing food to our potluck dinners after the Saturday night Mass.
Oh, I love that, Terry.
So,
I love doing that. There's nothing. I mean, that's next to my heart. We ran our home as a bed and breakfast for 15 years, just during the summer months. And I missed that. I missed the baking and and so I keep my hand in a little bit when we have suppers. The potluck suppers and any other thing, right? Any event. Oh, I'll bake. Any sales, like we have harvest issues. I don't know what we would call them, but I bake like for a week beforehand. I love that so much. So I enjoy raising funds for the church when it's called upon, and for donating. For just being there for people who come in just in the door curious and feel welcome.
Now, for anybody who hasn't been to the Saturday 5 o'clock Mass and potluck dinner, what would you say the potluck dinner provides to people who come to that Mass, besides food?
well, there's the camaraderie of a family that gets together, not just for the spiritual feeding, but also for the food that's shared by everybody, and of course the conversation. So you get to meet people in a different kind of surroundings. I mean, we're still in the church, but really with a total focus. And so you get to meet people, to chat, to perhaps even talk about things that have to do with church, but not necessarily. So it's really a nice ending to all of your needs here.
I find too it's a more senior crowd that comes in, and maybe they don't have a chance to talk or to be heard, and it's kind of nice to sort of provide a venue and hospitality at the same time, and it's just a good fit. What can I tell you, Terry? It's a good fit.
And finally, do you have any favorite memories of being part of St. Joe's?
Well, I can think of when we had a pastor here and assistant pastor who were fabulous singers.
Yes.
And to us, I mean, not to say that there's something missing now, but it certainly was special. And that was Father
Jerry Morris and Father Darrell Gauthier.
Yes. So I'm sure there are other things that I could remember, but when you asked me on the spur of the moment here, that came to my mind immediately. Yes.
Me too.
Which, as I said, it doesn't take away from the fact that now we experience some great musical events as well, but certainly not led by the pastor and assistant pastor. They used to sing the whole mass, the Eucharistic prayer.
Yeah. And Jerry Morris in his vestments and his height, he looked like Jesus Christ up there. It was just magnificent. And Darrell with his voice, you could hear a pin drop in the church. It was so wonderful.
Which now they've gone different ways, the two of them, but we did meet up with Jerry Morris, the bishop. He's a bishop.
No, that was another bishop. He was in Hamilton now.
Yeah.
Doug Crosby.
Doug Crosby.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know where Father Morris went.
Yeah, he's in Hamilton.
Jerry Morris.
Oh, no, Jerry died.
Yeah.
Oh, he passed
Yeah.
away. Yes.
We had his picture in the choir room for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to an end. Is there anything further you'd like to add before we...
We're lifers, Terry.
We're
We are
lifers.
lifers. You will bury us here.
The only thing I would like to add is that all of the ministries here at St. Joe's are wonderful. So I personally compliment everybody here on
It was a process. I
on
remember
a
the
job
process.
well done.
You know, the consultative process and the breaking down into ministries. That was first class. It was a brainchild of somebody's, and it was hard work at the beginning, but it fits our needs here, and we're able to respond to individual needs at all different levels. It's a gift. It's a gift.
Well, I'd like to thank you both for coming today and sharing your perspective on the history of St. Joe's, and I wish you a very happy birthday, Renee.
Thank you.
Thank you for including us in this series.
This,
My pleasure.
We've enjoyed your series so much.